Hello, nerds. Thank you for watching Generally Nerdy. This is your week in Nerdom for today, February 25th, 2020. In today's episode, we've got some mostly music as touring news this episode. The last few episodes I feel like more than my fair share of touring news, but that's cool, whatever. So we're doing that. We're doing some video game stuff. Honestly, I feel like gaming is one of our heavier subjects for this episode, which is kind of cool. Update on Riverdale, which we don't talk a lot about, so interesting. Why would we be talking about Riverdale this time? You're going to have to wait and see, but let's hit the intro first. No housekeeping for the episode, just things still rolling like they do. That being said, we're going to start in music, and in music, again, it's mostly just touring stuff. First and foremost is an update on touring. Rage Against the Machine has done just like I anticipated they were going to do, and they have added dates to their tour. Not a whole lot stateside, though. Mostly they added European dates to their tour, which kind of bums me out, but it is what it is, and you can't really change it because you're not the one who's booking the tour, right? So that is that. Next, we have a really awesome announcement for a tour, Baroness and Against Me. Against Me, I could take or leave, but Baroness is fantastic. I've seen them live before, would love to see them live again. They are going to be touring basically throughout the month of May, so that's pretty awesome. Our next touring announcement is Tool. Tool has announced they're going on another tour, still in support of their most recent record. Would love to see Tool live. Don't know if I'm going to catch them this time. But they're going to be touring throughout April, May, and June. And then our final piece of news is also touring. Joe Bonamassa, one of the greatest bluesmen to ever pick up a guitar, has announced his tour. I say it with the quotation marks because it's like 6 dates and what was it? It was 3 states, I feel like, California, Utah, and Colorado, which is a very strange collection of places to be playing. But yeah, Joe Bonamassa in July and August will be touring, again, using the word a little loosely, but still, if you have the ability to catch him, that's a hell of a live show as well if you want to go to school on how to play the guitar. That's all we've got for music, though, guys. Let's talk about TV streaming now. TV streaming, we've got a couple of... I'm just going to jump out the gate with the first one because don't really talk about Riverdale or really a lot of the CW shows here on the news show because, like, really the only news is what's going to happen in the next week's episode. If there's something huge, we've talked before in the past, like on The Flash and Green Arrow and things like that, and when they announced Lex Luthor was going to be in Supergirl, yeah, we've covered that stuff because that's actual news. If there's just an update on, oh, so-and-so's going to be breaking up with so-and-so in the next episode, and that's what all the news outlets are reporting on, that's not what we talk about here on this Nerd News show. So, this one being a little bit more noteworthy in that it has to do with Skeet Ulrich. Ulrich or Ulrich? Not entirely sure which. Ulrich is how I've always said it, but I've heard it said Ulrich a couple of times. I'm just going to keep with Ulrich. Anyway, Skeet Ulrich is leaving the show. Noteworthy because it's Skeet Ulrich, not necessarily. There's another character that's going to be leaving, one of the moms of one of the other kids. The only thing I know her from is Riverdale, so it is what it is, but that's kind of... Being as Skeet has noteworthiness aside from this show kind of makes this a little bit more newsworthy. Interesting why he would be leaving. No announcement as to new projects or anything like that, just said he enjoyed the opportunity to be on the show and now it feels like he has to move on, so... Okay. Next, we're talking about Haunting of Bly Manor. We have an announcement from Mike Flanagan via the Twitters, and we're done with principal photography according to his Twitter account. That being said, they're treating, much like most modern television or streaming does, they're treating this like a 10-hour movie. So there's potentially going to be some pickup shots that they miss. They're going to have to do some reshoots. And a lot of post-production for like special effects and so on and so forth. So we are one step closer to seeing Bly Manor, but we're not there yet. So definitely going to be keeping tabs on it as it gets further along in post-production, and we can see, what we get like leaks and trailers and so on and so forth. That will all be covered right here on the channel. Next, we're talking, and finally for TV streaming, the Friends reunion show. This apparently has not been 100% locked down until now. Now it is officially being announced by HBO Max and parent companies and so on and so forth, and all of the actors involved have made some sort of reference, well, except for I think Matthew Perry, because I don't think he's really done any interviews recently, or for like the last 8 years. So that being said, what we thought was a lock before now officially is a lock. So we have 100% confirmation that the Friends reunion show, and it's not going to be a typical reunion show because it's not going to be a scripted show. It's not like going to be a long lost episode. It's not going to be the episode where everyone comes, or I guess to put it in Friends vernacular, the one where everyone returns. It's not going to be that. It's going to be very likely just like a roundtable discussion of their memories of doing the show and so on and so forth, which theoretically could spawn into an actual reunion episode. That being said, that's not really on the table as far as things stand right now. We'll see what happens when it airs. I believe I've even heard a couple of sources say they're potentially going to be doing it live. So it's going to be live streaming across the HBO Max app. I doubt that part, but it's out there. So that's all we have for TV streaming, though. We are moving now into movies. Movies is significantly smaller. And we do have a Star Wars thing that's been put into movies, and it's not the one that you're thinking of necessarily. That one is going in rumors, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. First thing first, we have Little Shop of Horrors update. That's right, the Greg Berlanti version of the Little Shop of Horrors. Now, to clear up some confusion, because I saw more than one news outlet saying that it was a movie and then it was a play. That's wrong. It was a play a fair deal of time before it was a movie. The movie with Rick Moranis happened, I believe, at least, and I didn't write down the dates, so I'm not speaking 100%, but I'm going off of memory. It's somewhere in the neighborhood of about a decade or more before it was a movie, because the play's pretty old. So yeah, that's clearing that up. But that's not the news. The news is Chris Evans, that's right, Captain America himself, is being looked at and being officially courted. This is not rumor, this is from the studio. They want Chris Evans to play the dentist. Character's name is Orin Scrivello, who was originally played by Steve Martin in the movie. I don't know who the original stage production person was. So, I mean, that's an interesting choice, but also one of the more memorable songs from the play, so all right, I can get behind Chris Evans being a jerk dentist who, I'm your dentist. So yeah, I like that. It's fun. It's gonna be a fun movie. Berlanti really hasn't struck out on anything yet, so no reason to believe that one's going to be bad by any stretch. Now we're talking about Star Wars. This is the only other thing we have in movies. Part of this is confirmed. So that's why it's here in news. There is some rumor surrounding Star Wars, and we will get to that in the rumor mill. There is also a new different announcement dealing with Star Wars, but that has to do with books and comics. So that doesn't go in this section either. Those of you watching on Generally Nerdy or listening on the audio feed for Generally Nerdy will get the comic book update. Those of you on the other platforms, you're going to have to jump over to Generally Nerdy to get the comic book update. Anyway, so we have the official announcement that J.D. Dillard, who was the director for Sleight and Sweetheart. I haven't seen either movies. Apparently, Sleight is a pretty decent sci-fi horror movie. Cool. And then Matt Owens, who was a writer for Luke Cage and Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., have been brought into Lucasfilm to develop a new property. Now, that new property could be a movie, very likely will be a movie down the road somewhere. J.D. Dillard might not be the director, he's just here for the development stage. It could be something else, but it seems like they're trying to work their way back into the movie sphere, so it would make sense that this is one of those things, though that's not 100% confirmed. The only thing that we do know for certain is that Dillard and Owen have been brought in to develop a new property in the Star Wars universe. Now, there is a rumor related to this as well. Yeah, and that's in the rumor mill, so you're just going to have to wait to hear that, because it's at the end of the rumor mill. But that's all we've got for movies. Now, let's jump over to gaming. I don't know why I always want to put comic books first, but gaming is next after movies, and in gaming, we have the Streets of Rage 4 teaser trailer, a new Streets of Rage 4 teaser trailer. Now, this is really interesting. Not a whole lot of side-scrolling brawlers exist in the gaming world anymore, and the last Streets of Rage game was developed and released in 1994. So this is a long time coming. The trailer, you can find a link down in the description, is pretty awesome. It's got me some retro vibes really hard. Super excited for it. It sounds like it's going to be universally cross-platform. Nintendo, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC are all going to be involved. Pretty awesome. Next, we are talking about Samurai Jack, and not just something inspired by Samurai Jack. There is a new game being developed called Samurai Jack Battle Through Time. This one is being developed by Adult Swim Games and Soleil. Soleil they did the Naruto to Boruto game. They've done a couple of other games kind of in a similar vein. And the most interesting part about this is Soleil is bringing in a couple of team members from the now... I don't know, infamous is probably the incorrect word. They're super famous, though. Team Ninja, the people who brought Ninja Gaiden to life on the Xbox and Xbox 360, they are, some of them, not the entire team, but some of them now work at Soleil and are part of this project. So, friggin' yes, please, thank you, Ninja Gaiden developers are now being in charge of a Samurai Jack game. My head might explode with the excitement. That's freaking awesome. Then we have some Resident Evil 3 information. First off, there have been new screenshots released or leaked or whatever that show us new enemy types, which are kind of daunting, and especially considering, like, your main enemy in this game is Nemesis, who is the unstoppable force that just follows you throughout the whole game. These guys almost look scarier than him, and that's saying something. So that's part of the release. I'm not putting them up here. I might put them up here, I don't know. But the biggest part of this is we are officially going to be getting a demo for Resident Evil 3, the remake. I really liked the Resident Evil 2 demo. I got my ass handed to me a couple of times playing through it. I haven't played a Resident Evil game in a long time because they kind of lost their luster for me after 4. So the fact that they're going back through and revamping those games and making them more interesting, this is a lot of fun. But then our final piece in gaming is not about a specific game in particular, more about a specific console. Next-gen consoles, Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, they've been kind of slowly trickling out information. Microsoft had a large-ish reveal on some of the features for their next system just a few days ago, and the biggest one of the lot is they're calling it Smart delivery. Since we are on the cusp of a new console era, we are going to be seeing a lot of games get not only multi-platform releases, but multi-console releases, multi-generational releases. So games are going to be released on the Xbox One, as well as the Xbox Series X, as well as PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, so on and so forth, etc., etc. It used to be in the past, if you wanted the better version, but you had already purchased the one for the older generation, then you had to purchase both versions. You had to purchase, like for Xbox specifically, you wanted a game that was launched on the original Xbox, that was then launched on the Xbox 360, you had to buy both physical copies. Now, Xbox has released, the smart delivery option. That smart delivery option says that when you buy that Samurai Jack game for the Xbox One, and then they update it and release it for the Xbox Series X, you don't have to buy it again. You just put that disc in your Series X, it sees that you've bought it already, and it downloads the updated, not the Xbox One version, but the updated Xbox One X version for your new console. That's freaking awesome. The first official game that is going to take advantage of this feature is Cyberpunk 2077. Which is also amazing. So, all of you early adopters, don't fret, you are going to get the best version of Cyberpunk 2077. I mean, short of any DLC that comes after the update for the console, that you'll probably have to pay for, but you still get the updated version of the game for your proper console for free. That's freaking awesome. That's all we have for gaming, though. Now let's jump over to comic books. Comic books, we have one meta piece and one great read. So the meta piece has to do with Dan DiDio. Dan DiDio, who was one of the main editors over in DC up until 2 days ago, was just fired from DC Comics. It seems that DC's sales have stagnated, which is the first time in decades that has happened, and Warner Brothers and AT&T, the parent company, AT&T owns all of them. Warner Brothers is the next step down, and then DC Comics is the next step down. They're blaming Dan DiDio for it. A lot of the things that he put in place, very specifically the Rebirth, and actually I think they're blaming New 52 on him, and also 5G on him. 5th generation, this new thing that they're kind of starting to roll out. Well, now that they've fired Dan DiDio, it might not actually roll out, but there's rumors dealing with that. We're going to talk about those in the rumor mill. So a lot of stuff is going down. Dan DiDio was fired, and that has some other heavy implications that we're also going to be talking about in the rumor mill. So that's intense. That's pretty intense. Yeah, and they're also saying that their reputation, he's damaged the reputation of the company and so on and so forth. That's all a little bit of hearsay. The 100% confirmed part is Dan DiDio was fired. He was not asked to leave. He was fired. He did not leave of his own volition. He was fired. That's right. Also in comic books, we have, and this one is legit comic books and books. So that's the section, right? It's supposed to be comic books and literature and books. This one is theoretically both, and potentially neither, but stick with me. Star Wars High Republic is a thing that's happening. They just released the first trailer for that last night as I was doing the research for this. And so it's in the trailer, we know we're getting comic books. We also know we're getting a couple of novels, all dealing with the High Republic. And they're changing the timeline a little bit, because originally the High Republic was 2,000 years before the Star Wars that we know, before the Skywalker saga, effectively. So 2,000 years has now, under Disney, become 200 years. So that's significantly different, the factor of 100%. And so that means we have a living Yoda still. He's a younger version of Yoda. We have so much is going on. And as you can see, this side, as you can see from the picture, we also have Jedi Wookiees. what? There's a lot of crazy, and if you watch the trailer, there's also maybe something alluding to Baby Yoda, or the child, as you're supposed to refer to him. This is so freaking intriguing. And then you have the new bad guys are not Sith, they're the Niles, and yeah, there's a lot to kind of go through here. But as it happens, we are definitely going to be covering it. And all right, so yeah, Star Wars theoretically is about to get great again. Okay, so our final piece before we get to the rumor mill and in comic books is the Lock and Key books. There is a new Lock and Key book in development that is going to cross paths with Sandman, being co-published by IDW and DC. Hopefully. It's going to be called Hell and Gone. It'll be the merging of two very interesting universes, Sandman and Lock and Key, and only craziness can happen when you put those two together. I haven't seen the previews for it yet or the solicits for it yet, but once they come out, we'll probably talk about them. That's all we've got for comic books. Now we're into Rumor Mill, and this is the big one. We've got rumors from all over the nerddom, not just TV, movies, and kind of sort of gaming. Actually, I don't think we have any gaming in this one, but we do have some comic books, so let's get into it. All right, first off is She-Hulk. We have more rumors around She-Hulk. This one is about a different person who is rumored to be starring as the main character. Jen Walters might be played by Alison Brie. Now, she was in Mad Men. She was also in Glow. She's been in a few things throughout the years. And she's pocket-sized. So that means if this one is true, that She-Hulk is going to rely heavily on CG when she becomes the Hulk. Whereas if it was a couple of the other I can't think of the names right now, but if it was a couple of the other ones, they were, one of them at least was MMA, and so theoretically she could just put on green paint and hey, she's the Hulk. Maybe a little bit of CGI to bulk her up a bit. This is going to be like full on MCU style, like movie universe style CG. Which would make sense because they're treating the Disney Plus shows like movies, so they're dumping that kind of money and time into these shows. I honestly, Ronda Rousey, that's the name I was trying to think of. I honestly like Alison Brie for this role better than Ronda Rousey, especially when you consider Ronda Rousey's horrible performance in Mortal Kombat 11. So, that's just me, and it's just a rumor, so we gotta move on. This is the first of our comic book related rumors. So with all of the Dan DiDio stuff going on over at DC, him being fired so unceremoniously, so on and so forth, and then AT&T saying, well, we're not sure if we even want to do publishing anymore. We still want these properties because they're great movie fodder, but publishing, there's not a whole lot of money in publishing for us these days. So now the rumor says that they're looking to let the publishing rights go to some degree to the highest bidder, which theoretically would be Marvel. So is Marvel going to be buying out DC when it comes to the publishing of the comic books? If you want to believe the rumors, that's very, 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 very likely. It would just be the publishing because they would retain all movie licenses and rights and so on and so forth because that's what they're making. But in large part, the 5G stuff has not sat well with the parent companies, Warner Brother, and then above them, AT&T, because 5G is theoretically going to be such a shakeup in the comic book world that it's not going to relate to the movie world anymore, and that doesn't do well for sales, because if you see this version of Batman in the movies, then you want to see this version of Batman in the comic books as well, right? If 5G happens, that's not going to be the case. But who knows? It's just rumors, right? Next, we are talking about another 5G event, and I kind of alluded to it just a moment ago. Apparently, the rumor of a black Batman is perpetuating, and now it's not just any old dude that they're finding off the street, and it's not a proper reboot, which is a good thing. It is potentially, if the rumors are to be believed, Black Lightning is going to take up the mantle of the Bat for at least a short time, and then, again, according to the rumor, once the Robert Pattinson Batman movie releases in a year and a half, then we will flip back to Bruce Wayne as Batman, because that's who's going to be Batman in the movies. So, this one involves a lot of jumping back and forth. I don't know how reliable it is, but honestly, if you'd have asked me 2 weeks ago if DC would ever fire Dan DiDio, I probably would have said, no way, he's the man in charge. Why would they do that? So anything's possible with DC at this point. Next, we are talking about one of my favorite, and probably, considering the source, least likely rumors, is that we are going to, very potentially, in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, be seeing Omega Red. Not just Omega Red, but specifically Batroc the Leaper as well. So there was a leak reportedly from somebody who has seen the first episode, because apparently they have shown the first episode to test audiences in order to get reactions and so on and so forth. So somebody anonymously came out, and it made its way to 4chan, which is like, oh, okay, so it's probably not true, but it's fun to talk about, so we're going to talk about it. Said that Batroc the Leaper and Omega Red factor in, at least in a secondary capacity, in the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Omega Red is my favorite Wolverine villain, so if this is true, that's kind of awesome. But this is also very interesting to think of, because if they do this, reportedly they're not going to refer to them directly as mutants, which is to say that they're going to subtly introduce mutants into the universe, and then all of the sudden in one of the movies we're going to hear the word. So, could be actually a really great way to introduce mutants into the MCU. But it's a rumor, so we're moving on. Next, we are talking about the Silver Surfer movie that we have heard rumors about for months and months at this point. Now it sounds like they are looking at Rami Malek to play the Silver Surfer, which is kind of awesome. I could totally get behind Rami Malek as the Silver Surfer, because he's a great actor, and that's a very difficult character to do well. And so I feel like he would be up to the task. It's also, there's other rumors that kind of weave into this that are alluding to the fact that we might see a Silver Surfer solo movie before we see a Fantastic Four solo movie. The fact that we might even see a Silver Surfer solo movie at all is worth talking about. So that's pretty freaking awesome. But then our final piece of news, or rumors rather, is also a Star Wars rumor. And this Star Wars rumor is linked back to the movies, the movie announcement that we talked about with J.D. Dillard. So Dillard's story, according to this rumor, Dillard and Owen, I guess, the story that they have been brought in to develop has to do with Exegol. Exactly what it has to do, one source said that it's dealing with some just a story that takes place on Exegol, and another one said that it's going to be explaining the existence of Exegol. So there's a lot of iffy stuff out there about this, but it's still a lot of fun to talk about. And that is all I have today for your week in Nerdom, guys. What did I miss? What should we talk about in the next one? Let me know in the comments down below. If, though, you want to go deeper into the conversation, then jump over to the website, generallynerdy.net. Patreon.com/generallynerdy is the place to go support, so you can help me keep these lights on. Honestly, that $1 a month, if you sign up on the lowest tier, just $1, gets you all of the back catalog, gets you a couple other perks, and helps me tremendously. So go check out the Patreon. The website has all of the social medias and everything linked onto it, so go check that out as well. Also, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and ring the bell so that you know when your news has been posted, so you can come check it out. And hit the thumbs up if you like what I'm trying to do. There's a thumbs down. I mean, if that's what you're into, that's fine. guess. Before we go, though, guys, always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.